What's going on, everyone? Very interesting information that just came out here from Shuhei Yoshida. I saw it on his page and I saw it on Genki right here. He officially posted this on his Twitter, by the way. Boy, it gets more interesting, doesn't it, over here in the PlayStation world? And I've been telling people this since the PS4 era and they didn't want to listen to me. Shuhei Yoshida said that Jim Ryan gave him the choice to do indie job or leave PlayStation. I want y'all to think about that. Somebody's been there since the beginning. Moving from first party, he booted him out of that. And he went to the live rush it after that. Two indies. Well, I had no choice. When Jim asked me to do this indie job, that was the choice. See? The choice was to do that or leave the company. What an intro here in this video, right? Oh boy, talk about more Don Matrick nonsense that he's done. But he's worse than Don Matrick. We're going to figure this out. But he's lucky the PlayStation's in a good position. We're going to get to some highlight parts of the interview. I got to the good parts so where we could get to where he's talking about him. Again, Jim Ryan, oh, that's funny, was the Don Matrick of modern PlayStation. Sony was just smart enough to get rid of him before it was too late. We see what he said that right there. It is too late. Yeah, Don Matrick. Let's get that guy had the audacity to say Don Matrick was like, what an idiot. Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst destroyed PlayStation's first-party content. It will take at least a decade for them to get back on track. Jim Ryan was a mistake to Sony. Man, that's extremely ridiculous. If Shuhei would have been in charge of the first party, I doubt Sony would be in the mess they found themselves in. You're 100% correct. We're going to get back to these comments. Let's go ahead and go over to this interview. So I went all the way down. It's a very long interview. I mean, this video would be an hour plus long if I did this. Let's start with GamesBeats asking him, you expected PS4 to do well then. Did you think that would be a good recovery for Sony after the PS3, aspects that happened? From a game developer standpoint, yeah, we love the system up to PS3. The system was already designed. Even our first-party development teams were noticed after the fact. Yeah, they made some jumps from the 10-yard line to like the 20-yard line during that generation. At one point, it felt like they may have got to the 25-yard line, not to the 100-yard line like Nintendo doing a touchdown, but you definitely seen that, okay, now not only are we moving hardware, but we now have in-house that's kind of growing a bit. And that was a good thing. One day we were told the next controller has a motion sensor. What? They asked us to create a demo a week before E3. Make a demo with this motion sensor. That kept everything secret. I couldn't believe they did that. The Warhawk team did it. Remember, those are the guys from PS3, and Ken loved it. Ken. But that was the relationship. It was like the Great Wall of China. He's basically saying we had a great relationship with each other. Starting with PS4 and PS Vita, that wall broke down. We became part of the hardware design process. Lots of things about the hardware came from ideas and feedback from the game team, so we loved the system. We knew what we were getting. We were making prototypes based on the hardware prototypes, but we still didn't know if it was going to succeed until Microsoft made some great decisions for us. Don Matrick, Xbox One, all that. They put the ball on the tee and let us take our swing. We couldn't have asked for better competition. Pretty much. Games beat in the game process. Sony was becoming much more global at the time. It wasn't as focused on Japan. We saw that shift. And Japan didn't focus on them, and they went 97% Nintendo. The decision making became more global. And the only reason they had it was for Monster Hunter. Absolutely, that process started in the Andrew House days. Right? Westerners. Jim Ryan kind of completed it and destroyed it. There was still a transition going on in some ways, but it was pretty much complete. It was a long process. More than 5 years. So this process that Jim Ryan was doing was a 5-year process. That kind of makes sense if you think about maybe like 2015 all the way to 2020, and then continuing all the way from 2020 all the way up to this year. This dude had 8 or 9 years going with that. Bit by bit, Worldwide Studios was the exception. We were already global in 2005, but all the other parts of the company were divided. What does that say about him? Each publisher had to send in 3 different masters to release games around the world. Rather than that strong relationship you see they had, look at what happened now. Under Jim Ryan, the organization, he removed the individual headquarters. There was no more SCEA. Sony Japan got shut down too because of him. Shawn Layden lost the job. We got our answers right there. He came out and said it now. We knew this, right? He didn't just like, no, 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 no. What happened? That's right there highlighted in blue. Shawn Layden lost a job. There was no SCE Europe or SCE Japan. He reorganized everything into function based groups, letting the European take over that company that started off in Japan. Global marketing, global sales, global third party, global PR, all the parts of the company became global. It was headquartered in the United States, and they put their headquarters in California. Think about this, right? It's about to get even more interesting. Be prepared. Jim Ryan was in London, but it was a US based company. In Japan, all the different groups reported to the US or Europe. Did that make communication more difficult at first? The implementation of the globalization was different for each function. The leaders of each different group, one group might treat Japan like a local regional office. The decisions will be made in the US or Europe, and later the people in Japan would learn about it. I just put them in the back. We'll get to you when we want. They wouldn't know what the company was doing. Unbelievable. But other groups integrated Japan and treated everyone in the US, Japan, or Europe the same before that. Anyone who could do the job best was assigned a global role. Global manager of this function might be in Japan or in London. A manager in Japan would be fully integrated with the headquarters discussions for that function. It was different for different functions. What do you think about how the structure of the business has changed? For a time, you had the console cycles, about 5 years, now it's changed. Right, it's getting longer. The last cycle was 7 years. If it's 7 years, we'll see a new one in 2027. That's what I was telling people. I have no information about the next PlayStation, but it feels a bit too early for me to say. The PlayStation 5 generation was slowed down because of manufacturing issues. And if the next PlayStation comes out in 2028, that feels right to me. Microsoft had their leak about a 2028 plan. Maybe both of them will come out then. There are diminishing returns from semiconductors. Those are the chip manufacturers. Some of the problems we have today is that it's been too long, though. We're getting a Switch 2 after 8 years. The last 2.5 years have been tough for developers. The stretching out of the cycle, the drop after the pandemic, that's not been enough to get new consumers excited. I don't know if you saw Matthew Ball's big slide deck about how game industry got stuck in 2024, why things have slowed down, why all the layoffs happened. Do you have your own perspective? I think it's an overreaction to the COVID situation. He's just saying it's just market recorrecting itself. That was just a high peak. Nintendo didn't fall for that though, but they benefited. Companies invested too much, including ourselves. Then we had to face reality and make adjustments after that because they weren't getting those profit margins like they did in the COVID spike. And I saw that the profit go all the way down, plus all the political invasions. I know he doesn't want to say that, but we know that's true. Stupid boot camp pronouns, unfinished projects, losing money. So what are you going to do then? If you want to make that back, you're not going to want to pay those people all that money. And single player games being too expensive, well, yeah, you're going to lay some people off. So if you take out the COVID years, you'd have smoother growth over the years. That makes sense. Why did you decide to retire? Well, I haven't retired. I told people this. Now we're getting even more meaty information out of this. I left the company. He didn't want to really. Jim Ryan was the last leader of our generation. Ken Kutaragi, who was awesome, Kaz Horai, who was awesome, Andrew House, he was not too bad, Shawn Layden, I liked myself. We were all the same group from the PS1 days. Why y'all think it feels like that now? Everybody knows it don't feel the same, right? I just watched Alex's video talking about, how he's disappointed. Any PlayStation fan knows that there's an alien feeling right now with it, that it's like, I feel like something is off. Even though you could say you sold all this, but there's something missing, some type of a soul, some type of like, good feeling. Like you can still enjoy it, you know what I mean? But there's people that don't want to face reality and admit that, just right off the coattails of manufacturing hardware sales, which don't benefit them at all. You're there to play the games. We handed down to the next generation of management, like Hideaki Nishino and Herman Host. For the last 5 years, my responsibility was to promote indie games inside and outside of PlayStation. It's a terrible demotion for somebody like him. I wanted to communicate because he's smarter than Jim Ryan and he would have did a better job. But what happened? Yeah, especially to new people joining PlayStation, how important it is to support indie games. That is important. Everybody that's in a position now, back in the '90s, used to be in an indie project. Everybody used to start small, and then you grew into what you are now. But we can never deny indie. That's like denying the ones that are coming up right now. That should be the pupils to be trained to one day become senseis and stuff like that, and lead the future generations. To deny indie is to deny that. That's what I love about Nintendo. They don't do that. They have that perfect balance between indie, AAA indie, double A, triple A, and just having every single spectrum of genre being highlighted at the highest degree and keeping genres alive that are dead elsewhere in the third party world and in-house elsewhere else. Microsoft is now getting on that too, and I like that they're strengthening the Western forefront. But getting back to this segment, was to promote indie games inside and out. They create the future. Exactly, because they grow into that. Externally, I was communicating to indie developers and publishers that we wanted to make things better for them. Bit by bit, we've been able to improve our systems, our storefront functions, and our communication. A few years back, one of the reasons I got a job from Jim, we'd been criticized by the indie community. They said that PlayStation doesn't care about indies. You don't hear that from kind of criticism anymore. Last year, we had a lot of anecdotes from my indie partners that their new games were selling better on PlayStation than any other platform. That's amazing. Some games sold better on PlayStation than on PC, but Nintendo indies sell very well. But I guess I'm not going to talk about that. But I know what he means though. When I started to that work 5 years ago, which he's talking about the PS4 era, our indie partners would say that when they released their games multi-platform, the Switch version would sell 3 to 5 times more. Okay, thank you. The Switch version would sell 3 to 5 times more than PlayStation. I was about to say, I was like, come on, man, because yeah. Okay, bit by bit, that gap has narrowed down. We have a strong team inside the company supporting indies. When I got the job, I told Jim that I didn't want to create a department. There was enough verticals in the company. Coordinating a department is hard already. I don't want to create another vertical. I worked through the existing organization. My personal goal when I started the indie job was to make my position obsolete. The company would be doing so well that there was no need for someone like me to tell everyone that this was important. He felt like they should have been trained to do that. I agree with him after so long. I feel like we've achieved that pretty well. There's still a lot we can do, but people are working on it. You had a combination of Jim leaving and Nishino and Herman stepping up, and I felt good about that state of our support for indies. I decided to leave. He couldn't do anything else. He's forcing them out. So now we know he left. Imagine if you want to leave something. I'm leaving. You know what I mean? I don't want to stay. Yeah, no love there. Did you face any personal challenges handling some of the biggest developers over the others to deal with, and when you went to focus on the smallest game companies? Moving on from first party to indies, well, I had no choice. When Jim asked me to do the indie job, the choice was to do that or leave the company again. But I felt very strongly about the state of PlayStation and indies. I really wanted to do this. So he wanted to do the job and leave. He knew what he already wanted to do back then. I believed I can do something unique for that purpose. That was the bigger change for me personally, moving from my first party to indies, then leaving the company this year. I was very lucky that the indie community, the publishers and developers I work closely with, they believe that they could use my help. It could be useful and still provide love for the brand he's been with his whole entire life. I became an advisor for some of these companies. I'm continuing to work with some of the indie developers or developers I respect. The transition out of the Sony to becoming an independent advisor is less of a change than moving out of first party. A lot of game community are very enthusiastic, but they can also be hostile. They see a buggy game and they get mad at the developer. You were very successful at spreading joy in the industry. I liked Yoshida. He was a cool guy. It seems like people were never mad at you. Yeah, he's an awesome dude. A very sunny, loving individual. He was awesome. They reacted very well to the things you said. You communicated well. That was a real achievement when you look at how people seem to be mad at everyone else. Yoshida says, gamers are the reason we can do our jobs, making games, selling games, promoting games, writing about games. Without our customers, none of that happens. For me, everyone is a customer. Hopefully they play games. Yes, they're passionate, so they might get mad, but only have so much money. Spending $70 is a big investment if the game is buggy, if it's not polished. That's why Game Pass is great and PlayStation Now and all these other services. Of course, they get upset. They had other choices for spending that money. I have a basic appreciation for our customers and who they are. It's just a matter of perspective. You can't look at things from just one angle. If you tell someone, yes, that's one angle, but have you thought about it like this? They might change their mind. That's what I've tried to do. And ending this, so are you still going to work with indies? Oh yeah. So that means his heart's kind of in it in a bit, so we can see that. I love working with these younger, talented developers. They come up with amazing games every year. Every year when you come to one of these events, a couple of nominees for the Game of the Years are indies. They're bringing something exciting like Balatro to the industry. It's a lot of fun. That's my dream to be able to help them. So getting back to Jim Ryan, I've always told people that I thought he was a piece of shit human being, and I thought he was a terrible leader, and that he's going to ruin PlayStation. I said this back in the PS4 era. Look at what happened. Terrible person. Not funny, not humorous. Like there's nothing likable about him. Yeah, he's straight out about how he is, but I just never liked the guy. And I always felt like giving him the leader of the captain ship was a terrible idea, and look at what he did. He divided everything. He ruined all those positions, and he drove him off the cliff after that. What do you guys say about that? Now, this is where I feel like the PlayStation base was being kind of blind because they didn't see that. They were just over there kissing Sony's ass where all of this reaping what you sow, which is happening now, was happening. The amount of chaos and ugliness that Jim Ryan sowed, dear Lord, look at this. And then just screwing over Japan big time. I've always felt that. That's what I've been trying to tell people. They don't want to listen to him. Like, he sold the soul of PlayStation to become a European brand and to screw over the balance of the Japanese spectrum. And just over westernized it, turned it into a movie rush. And then after the movie rush, you turned it into a gas rush. And had no sense of balance and vision and direction. So what do we have to say about this? Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think about this. This is a very interesting interview, and I'm glad Yoshida's coming out now because I feel like this is a nice dude, but he knows that it's the right thing to do. If we look for his Twitter, let's see here, Shuhei Yoshida. You guys can find it. I forgot his Twitter was something. Here it is right here. Let's go to his Twitter real quick. He posted it himself. Look at this. Shuhei Yoshida looks back at 31 years at Sony's PlayStation interview. This is the same thing that I'm on right now. Like I said, you could go and click on it. It takes you right over here, right up to the top. This is how long this interview is. That's why I couldn't do this. I'm like, man, that's a long interview. Let me get to the meat of it for you guys. But there it is. If you guys want to read the whole thing, because there's some people that don't mind doing it, they like reading. Reading is good. Hey, I'll read every single day. I read every single day. I've been reading my whole life. It's good to do that. And it's here. So like I said, if you want to go right to his Twitter, it's right there. And I'm going to link him and let him know that I've done this along with Shawn Layden because they were done wrong. And now the PlayStation brand is suffering because of it. And it affects the gamers too. Nobody wants to see gaming do bad if you're a real gamer. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Let me know what y'all think. Leave a comment. Get this algorithm going. All right, y'all. Peace out.